Hi, my name is Jackson Crocker, and this is my cover sheet. We'll be starting with scenario 1. Numbers count. From the screen capture of the scale of the universe, one can see that the sun has a scientific notation of 1.4E9 and is 100 times larger than the Earth. I choose to use the E in my comparison for two reasons. It is easier to write than the exponential, and it contributes to the objective of our lesson. The E with a plus indicates a larger number, like the size of the sun, whereas the E with a negative indicates a smaller value, like the down quark at 1e negative 18. This comparison helps quantify the vastness of space and the galaxy and on a quantum level as well. I found that the speed at which the Earth and the universe is traveling redefines my entire concept of stillness. I am unsure that one can ever be still, which is why I choose to name the speed category isotropic pacing. The observable universe is constantly expanding and everything is moving away from a focal point. As aesthetically pleasing as the 3D pie chart is, it is in my opinion that the bar graph provides a better comparison of the traveling speeds. The number and scientific notation provided a foundation for the comparison of the very large and small values, which certainly helps me understand it better. On to scenario 2, fooling around. Reasons for bias and false reports could be intentional, especially when reporting funding for a project, as was the case in the ARENA funding. This international confabulation visually misleads the individual into making an incorrect assessment. This was demonstrated in the unemployment reporting ARENA funding and percentage of corporate sales. A bias or false group provides visual influence. We tend to believe what we see. We also tend to be a bit lazy when evaluating visual information instead of checking the math. The information was easily disrupted by the realigning the vertical axis to 0, which provided an honest representation of the values. The Cartera size was discordant. I accessed the illustration shape of a circle and placed it over the larger circle, and then copied the circle shape and represented the process with the smaller circle. The diameter of the smaller circle was changed to the value of 1, and the diameter of the larger circle was changed to 2.7. I used Excel equaled and typed P to select pi. I then multiplied pi times the half of 2.7 squared equals 3.14 times 0.5 times 2.7 squared. I repeated this process with a diameter of 1. In order to get the percentage difference, I selected the equal and then in a smaller value and divided by a larger value equals 78 times, divided by 5.72. which resulted in a value of 13.7%. The Cartera circle is substantially larger than 4.5% of the graph's circle and falsely overestimates their sales percentage visually. First, the data has to be reliable and valid, and second, it has to be graphically accurate. Sampling questionnaire and the interviewer could be all flawed. Consequently, analysis needs a second look instead of a passing glance. We should never assume accuracy, but double check the values. And just showing the other stuff. On to scenario 3, sizing. The data from the internet demonstrates a higher population of 329 million as compared to 326.2 million. I found that in order to follow the sequence of events, I had to go back and utilize the original data values of 326.2 million. I confess that for me, this was by far the most difficult and time-consuming scenario. Even though I utilized the same original data of 29% of 326.2 million, I came out to 94 million for me. I'm quite sure that I have made an error, but for the life of me, I was unable to figure it out. The instructor's data calculated out to 93.3 million. I prefer to confess my discrepancies. Each section of the Venn diagram displays the areas of overlap. There are 27.7 million people that have all three disorders: high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. As seen in the Venn diagram, there are only 10 million of the overall 94.6 million that don't have type 2 diabetes and or high blood pressure. The percentage Venn diagram really stresses this point. With 3.1%, the probability of having all three disorders is almost 3 times as likely to occur to only have obesity. This only illustrates the high risks. Associated with obesity. Obesity has a higher incidence of high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. Based on this, the probability of high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes increases with the increase of obesity occurrence. If you live in a state with a higher incidence of obesity than type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, also increases. Arkansas is ranked 7th in the United States with a high percentage of 35%. Iowa is 4th with a 36.4% as compared to Colorado with only a 22.6%. You might deduct that living in Colorado is healthier than living in Arkansas. There are more facets to the dilemma than is outlined in the data, i.e. genetics, income, age, and etc. The data is not complimentary of Arkansas in any way, though. In scenario 4, I found the textual annotation of Excel to be very quirky and non-intuitive. Having said that, the numerical formulas are intuitive. The range of the data values includes the smallest to the highest value. A standard deviation is a value that outlines a deviation from the group. So the standard deviation for an Army recruit is 3.4, where are the standards of the deviation of the mall shoppers 17.1. Mall shoppers have a much larger deviation. The coefficient of variation is the standard deviation divided by the mean and provides probability of occurrence, which is why I labeled my vertical axis as probability/BMI. Because the standard deviation of range of BMI is less for the Army recruits, refer to scatterplot 4 and trend line at the top of scenario 4. You can also see that the data points are tighter than the mall shoppers. This is mirrored in the box and whiskers chart. The box is much larger for the mall shoppers. The whiskers outline the upper and lower quartiles, while the box outlines the median and the standard deviation. Obviously, a general population sample from the mall as compared to the Army recruits that are younger in age and generally healthier are going to exhibit less variation in the values. Age alone could explain the variation. In my standard deviation cells, I include the standard deviation as well as the chart value. I hope this helps demonstrate that the Army recruits are within 2 standard deviations, and because the standard deviation is much smaller, there's more value in the 2 sigma than seen in the mall shoppers. Whereas the mall shoppers are easily within splitting distance 11.4 and 45.6. Mall shoppers have one outlier at 72.4, which contributes to the increase in the standard deviation. Without this outlier, the chart and values would change. Consequently, there is a 68% chance that the majority of the mall shoppers will fall within 1 standard deviation, or 1 sigma. Comparatively, the Army recruits who collectively have a healthier BMI have 2 values that are placed in the 2nd sigma, or 95.5%. If we remove the 72.4 outlier, the mall shoppers chart would mirror the Army recruits exactly. In scenario 5, in the smooth line chart with an initial investment of $1,200, I had to go rogue. I changed the maximum under the axis options to $200,000 instead of $100,000, which displayed the sales point of $300. This enabled me to include both the arrow and the target figure. I'll come back to this in a second. The initial investment, as noted by a blue star, was $1,200. The smallest profit value is indicated by the red star at $59,080, at negative $59,080, which corresponds to the sale of 100 units. Even though the flamethrower was selling, they were not covered by the cost of production. This even point is indicated by the orange star and demonstrates that things are looking up for the company. This has occurred after the sales of approximately 200 units, according to the chart. The sales of approximately 250 units would correspond to a profit of $90,000. When it comes to investment options, as the marketing manager, it would depend on the need if cash inflow is needed immediately and viability of the project is questionable. I would suggest the compounded continuous investment. However, if the project is not risky and the motives to involve the investors is altruistic, then I would suggest the simple interest upon option. Continuously compounding is more profitable in the long run for an investor to profitable and viable company. In scenario 6, in 5 years, I plan to live in the central Arkansas area. It is cheaper to live here compared to my siblings that live in other places like Philadelphia, London, and Cupertino, etc. If you want to live in an expensive place, then you need to make a lot of money. For instance, my stepbrother is in California, and his rent is $4,500 a month. If you work at Apple in the United Kingdom, you make considerably more because London is one of the most expensive places in the world to live. I outline my financial management, time management, and nutrition management. A significant difference in my financial management compared to the outlines that I have discovered is I do not plan on incurring a automobile debt. I plan on paying money back each month and paying for a used vehicle instead of giving my money away in interest to some bank or car company. I understand that there are 0% loans, but you typically spend more than you would otherwise. No thanks. I plan on living within my means, and my means may not be a lot. I don't need a lot. My time and nutrition management will mirror most individuals. I hope that I work out more, but I want my storyboard to be honest. And in my opinion, anytime you write down or create a graph, as in the case, you are defining your objectives. If we don't understand the costs, we cannot budget or plan around them accordingly. I hope to embrace a conservative approach to my money and management and keep it for myself and my family instead of incrementally distributing it to others. Though through a lack of planning, I have managed to avoid college loans or the same reason, but time will tell. But I'm very fortunate to have avoided that with my standing. Lastly, if any of my fellow scholars are watching and are still lacking a teammate, I'm here and I've reached out to a few people but haven't been able to get on with the team yet. So if anybody has any free options, I'd be more than happy to join. And I consider myself a really hard worker and I do my best to help the team out. So please consider me if anybody has any open spots. Thank you.